And welcome everybody in here to another edition of Football Stories, the radio show, live here on Facebook, on YouTube, and here in the comfort of our homes. As you can see, everybody in the background there, including the king himself. I am Matt Santoleri. We got Rock Hoffman with us, our college football editor of Football Stories, the magazine, our co-host here of the radio program. We got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program, and Big Al Zafiri doing double duty as usual, co-hosting and also producing our show. Got a jam-packed show here for you guys. Before we get to it, I'm going to toss over to Al for a quick word.
That's right. We want to remind everybody that teamwork makes dream work. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is a boutique brokerage in Mullica Hill, New Jersey, that works as a team as they service all areas of southern New Jersey, including Atlantic, Burlington, Camden, Cape May, Cumberland, Gloucester, and Salem counties. The South Jersey real estate market is on fire right now, and the real estate market is up 16% nationally, according to the National Association of Realtors. At Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, we have a number of buyers in waiting looking to move into their new home. Our sellers are receiving multiple offers and getting top dollar for their homes. Recently, they've seen homes get $20,000 over the asking price. No home is too big or too small for this brokerage. And get this, Nancy says your home sold guaranteed, or she'll buy it if you agree with her on the terms and conditions of that apply to that offer. If you are thinking about selling your home, now is the time. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 to speak to one of their highly trained professionals. And welcome to Football Stories Facebook Live. We are remote today. We're just taking some due diligence with the COVID thing, and we decided to just do it au natural here, and it's fine with me. And Rock Hoffman, obviously. Nice to have you on today, and Matt, Al. And how's everybody doing with their bracket? I had a great first round, and then right in the trash in the second one. But my final four, I think, is all intact.
Yeah, my final four is not intact. I have one missing now that Illinois got bounced by Loyola. But other than that, I mean, it was kind of wonky really from day one, right? I mean, Ohio State goes down day one. That was obviously a huge upset. You look at, even some of the upsets people were calling, right? Like the Florida and Virginia Tech game that went to overtime. That was really close for a lot of people. That flips a different way. So it was always going to be a weird March Madness. I think everybody kind of expected that, being the season of COVID, and having teams like Duke and Kentucky not even in the tournament, mainstays that we were used to seeing constantly there at those 1 and 2 seeds even. And, you go into it like this, it was always going to be a weird one, but it just went a lot weirder than I think anybody really expected on that end. And teams like Loyola that have maybe a little bit more senior-laden, been together, a little bit more leadership, maybe got looked down upon just because of the fact that they played in a smaller division, are the teams that are really reaping the benefits of the current, path to get to where they want to get to in the tournament.
Well, I think that's always been the case with the tournament, is the smaller conferences, the mid-majors or whatever, that have older players because they're not typically one-and-done, universities. Do shine, and not all of them, but one or two a tournament usually come through and shine because they have that experience and they've been together for 3 or 4 years for a large part of the team. So that does shine through. That is one of the shining moments of March, is teams like that.
Yeah, I could say it was a total crapshoot pulling my bracket together this year. I wouldn't say I'm like a college basketball aficionado or anything, but I do follow it to a point. And when I do my brackets, I've done well in the past, won a few brackets here and there. But this one, it was just like, I was like, yeah, I could just see is it easy going with all the big names. But then again, does somebody get bounced because of just a bad beat, or is it a COVID situation? So this was really hard. This was just roll the dice for me.
And they had the older teams like Loyola. They had the physicality part of it, too. When you have a freshman-laden team, they're still kids. They're only 18 years old. And then I remember a Wisconsin team a couple of years ago that was senior-laden and they made it all the way to the championship game. Duke got ousted one year by, a nobody team, but they were all these big seniors, that were mature. And, Duke had like all these skinny McDonald's All-Americans, and they just got pushed around. So that's a bit of a factor sometimes, but You know, obviously Villanova is a little bit of a surprise because I think a lot of people. I only had him going to the second round. Rocky, I think you only had him in the.
I had because losing Gillespie, and they didn't look too good in 2 games without him. I'm like, all right, they were playing a Winthrop team that was a deep team, kind of a run gun team. They play 11 players, Winthrop, not anymore, at least not this season. But they played 11 players, and Villanova dressed 11 players. And I just figured out, losing your point guard, that's a recipe for disaster. And, I was right.
So the
completely wrong.
but they really looked good this past game, and they got a break because they got a lower seed in the second round.
Yeah, so they got Texas after North Texas upset Purdue, one of the myriad Big Ten teams that crashed and burned.
8. 8.
And the one I think I had Michigan going. I had Michigan losing in this round, but I mean they lost a guy. Georgia Tech lost a guy, and they got bounced in the first round. So a couple, one team that lost somebody to COVID got bounced, but Michigan has survived, and Villanova didn't lose a guy to COVID, but they certainly lost a guy, the worst time.
Yeah, well, and now that Villanova's in the Sweet 16, hey, might as well just root for them now, and
well, they're gonna have a tough challenge coming up with Baylor.
Yeah, but you know what? They are this kid Jeremiah Robinson Earl, 6'9", 230, averaging. He had 18 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds against North Texas. He looked really good. And Chris Archie, I'm not the only one who butchers this name. I mean, when Villanova won the national title, all the national guys just went Arch. And
for Archidiakono.
Archidiakono was 2 for 3 on threes, and they were the first 2 baskets of his season. And when they got him, when he hit that first 3, there seemed to be something with the rest of the lineup that kind of relaxed and they played better because they know that one of their starters, he can hit the shot. He got it out of the way, and there seemed to be a little bit more confidence that hey, we got a guy here who can hit a shot. That's going to be bringing the ball up. So I think that helped a lot. And they just, in the second half, they just completely took over that game. And, they definitely have a chance against Baylor. Will they beat Baylor? I don't know. But
it's going to be a tough climb. But in this tournament, I think almost anybody has a chance.
Yeah. So
I think what I would say is, as far as maybe being tournament tested, they beat a 12 seed and a 13 seed, and now they got to go up against a team that was, for whatever the ratings, the rankings are all year, was, I think, number 2 all year behind Gonzaga. So, I don't know.
It's a different animal, like Rock was saying there on that end. I mean, winning games in the tournament, as we've seen, the seeding, it matters. It doesn't really matter too much. Like if you still have to win a game in a high pressure situation and, other than Gonzaga, every team in this tournament has lost a game. So you're looking at, teams in here having to be able to go on an unbeaten streak. That's always going to be tough, but that's really rough when, think about just playing the 2 worst teams in the NBA and then going out and then playing the second best team. Like, how do you prepare yourself for that? Can you even take, your past experiences and say, okay, well, momentum is going to push us forward when there's such a talent gap between the 2 teams that you just beat and the team that you're about to play. I expect Baylor to win that game, but again, at the same time, like we've seen already, like it wouldn't be the most surprising if Villanova wins because, well, we've already gone into the first round or out of the first round with the most, 12 or lower seeds than we've ever seen in a March Madness tournament. So, it's favoring those upsets, it's favoring those other squads and teams being able to do it. So, and it looks like Mint Diggity's bringing it up on here. Only a 4.5 point underdogs. That's not a big spread. For a basketball game at all, anything can go. It's 2 baskets that Vegas is kind of putting the game at there. So if that's the case, well, then everybody, including Jay Wright inside that locker room, is making sure that they understand, hey, we are in this game. It is a winnable game. Hey, even they think we could do it, or at least it's in the realm of possibility. We just got to go out and execute.
Well, and the other thing too is, like I said, Baylor was number 2 all year. Well, the rest of the top 10 was loaded with Big Ten teams that are all now, if they were professionals, we'd say they're making, golf reservations. They're getting ready for their final exams. We'll say that instead of getting ready to play in the third round of the tournament. So maybe the rankings aren't what we expected. So maybe Baylor isn't as good as we think they are because the rankings are skewed this year because, most teams didn't really play out of conference. But now they are getting out of conference, and the conference that we thought was the best got hammered. So it's
8 teams gone. 8.
Yeah.
And they had a number 1 seed gone, number 2 seed gone, and number 4 seed gone. I mean, that's amazing that they could be that bad. But at least like the Big Ten networks not taking themselves too seriously, they're making as many much worse wisecracks than anybody is here, about how bad they are.
And the other thing is, each game is kind of an entity unto itself.
Right.
All right. It's disappointing that the Big Ten looked like they were the power conference and set for a great tournament and then came up so small. But I know a lot of people put stock into, that means, the strength of the conference. I've never been one to base the strength of the conference on how they do in a one-and-done situation, whether it's college football in the bowl season or college basketball in the tournaments. I mean, that's just me. Everybody can judge on their own, but that's just how I look at things.
Do you have your bracket in front of you? I mean, I have my final four are Gonzaga. That's a big shock.
Yes.
Alabama, Houston, and Baylor.
Yeah, I thought I have Gonzaga and Alabama. I thought I was kind of being a little unique with Alabama. I guess not. Baylor and one of the Big Ten flameouts, the Illini. So three of my 4 big Final Four are still alive. And Baylor's got to be one because I have them winning the national championship. So.
Yeah, me and Rock have the same Final Four there with Gonzaga, Alabama, Baylor, and then Illinois, who obviously got upset there by Loyola. So still in it as far as that wise goes. National championship is kind of busted because I had Illinois going to the national championship, to play Gonzaga there. But at least my national champion is still on the board. I guess we'll see if I could pick up some points on some of the other picks that I had, like picking Syracuse to go for a couple more rounds as they have already, and then kind of seeing where that kind of goes. So.
Well, three of my 4 are still intact. I had Gonzaga and Alabama, but I had Ohio State actually making it to the 4, and then Houston as well. And actually, I had Houston beating. I'm Ohio State beating Houston. So right now, Alabama I have as my national champion, and they're still technically in it. Yes.
All right. Well,
they're not only a football team or a football program.
Luckily,
I hear that commercial every day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great run too. I mean, that SEC tournament. I mean, between those 2 teams, I mean, like I was saying earlier about not seeing a team like Kentucky, not even in the tournament or in that conversation, allowed for 2 teams that hadn't really won the SEC in over, I think it was like over a decade, over 15 years since one of these teams had won the SEC. And then you see that game, the championship game between LSU and Alabama, really showed that scrap that Alabama has in them and their ability to pull it out in big moments. So it would not surprise me. That's why I picked them to go to the Final Four, that they were able to kind of be battle tested in a way to kind of be perfect for a tournament like this. But again, we'll see how it goes. I mean, they do have a little bit of some tough road ahead in order to get to the national championship game, if that's the case. Because let me see where we at there. Alabama, they still got to beat Michigan, or the winner of Michigan and Florida State. Florida State kind of squeaking out a little bit there for to get into this and then kind of go from there. So we'll see how that game goes for Alabama, but they're definitely a team that could surprise and could potentially be that national championship team in a year like this. That wouldn't be the craziest thing to happen either.
It's just going to be hard for anybody to knock Gonzaga out there. They got past those first 2 rounds. They're playing with confidence, and they just have so much firepower that it's going to take a crazy effort by one of these teams. Baylor is probably the most instructed to do it, but I have losing to Houston before then. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. But did anybody see the? I guess your thoughts on the Eagles signing Joe Flacco for their backup role as quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as it came out, you saw me on Twitter there, Al. I was like, Al's got his guy. Not saying that you were necessarily rooting for Joe Flacco, but you brought it up several times on the show as a potential, backup option last year before he had signed with New York, and then this year with the Eagles as being somebody who they can bring in to be that, clipboard warrior, a kind of Josh McCownish kind of figure, hopefully, right? Like somebody who we don't want to see have to take the field, and like Josh McCown didn't want to see him take the field in a playoff game. That's not something you want to see with Joe Flacco, but a guy who in the locker room can at least be a leader. If you look at the money that they gave him, it really wasn't a whole lot of money at all. It's very little for a backup quarterback even. His contract actually guarantee-wise is the same amount of guarantees that the Patriots gave Cam Newton, with 3.5 guaranteed. And again, a lot of people looked at that contract as being something that was a steal kind of a deal because, again, upside and being a guy who's a veteran, not necessarily MVP, but a guy who has won a Super Bowl and has that experience. I mean, that's invaluable there. I don't like the fit as far as the backup to starter role, right? Like whether it's Jalen Hurts or it's Fields, Wilson, Trey Lance, whoever they could draft as a rookie coming out to be the quarterback of the future. Having Joe Flacco being the direct backup seems kind of weird because those offenses would be completely different from each other, and so you're going to have to kind of rework it if Flacco were to get into games. You're not going to turn Jalen Hurts or really any of those other guys into pure pocket passers. So the offense is just, like I said, just going to be really different. But from all the other intangible aspects of it, it's not a bad deal. I still look at this team as being one that's going to carry three quarterbacks. So they probably still draft a guy, whether it is early in the draft or late in the draft, to kind of throw somebody else out there in the mix because it's just a weird quarterback room if it's just Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco, and you don't really go into the season with a solidified option there, whether it's of the future with a late round guy you can groom as his quarterback factory has been named, or with, again, somebody better at the top of the depth chart because, again, it doesn't really instill any confidence with Joe Flacco on the back end.
Well, they're still going to have a gang of people on their practice squad. I mean, how many did they have this past year? Like 14? Some crazy number that they're still going to have a big practice squad this year, and they're going to have a quarterback there, and they're going to probably pick a quarterback, in the later rounds. I mean, I wrote this little note things to you guys before they actually announced that they picked up Flacco. So I can imagine that the Deshaun Watson, the 16 lawsuits and counting, are scaring some teams away, and Eagles may have been one of them. You know what I mean? And was Trey Lance just their due diligence? I mean, you never know with this group. But they did show a little bit of their hand by signing Joe Flacco. But he could be a backup to Trey Lance, and he could be a backup to Jalen Hurts, for all we know, right? If they pick Trey Lance at somehow number 6, he's probably going to be the starting quarterback.
Listen, anything's on the table with the Birds in this situation. They are the most unpredictable team, unless you want to say that they're predictable in the sense that they're going to do something that's not going to make people happy. Try to keep it
That's
PG
what I'm saying.
here.
It could be anything, but they picked in a way they really didn't show their hand by signing Joe Flacco. He's the backup quarterback regardless.
Well, he's not a future here. It's 1 year. Everybody assumes he's going to be this, like Matt said, the clipboard warrior, the guy who's going to help mentor Jalen Hurts or anybody else they brought in. I wonder about that a little bit. I guess when they signed him for that little extra money to steal him away from San Fran, that part of the deal was like, listen, we need you to be a mentor, because he even said, I think it was in Denver or something, or I wasn't sure it was Denver or New York. He said, I'm not here to mentor anybody. I'm here to play.
Yeah.
So I would hope that part
to say that, though. He's not the first quarterback to say that.
No, he's not the first quarterback, and he's not the last. But my point is, in his career at this point, that's all he's got left in the tank. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I've made my Joe Flacco jokes throughout the last couple of years. And I don't think he has more than a couple good games of football left in him. If they ride with Jalen and he's the backup, and Jalen's down for a game or 2 or 3 at worst, then he'll be serviceable. But if it's any more than that, he's toast. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's got a few games in the tank. He could be a Josh McCown if he wants to be. Maybe this is his foray into coaching or something at one point. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm not saying it's a terrible signing because, he has the most experience. And he's got a ring. He's got the most experience out there. And maybe he could be good to Joe Flacco, but he didn't want to do it in Baltimore. So what makes me feel he wants to do it in Philly unless it's just I want to make the money.
And just reminding everybody that at 7 o'clock, we're going to have Dr. Sean McMillan of Virtua Health Systems. We'll be calling in at 7 o'clock. We got some interesting things to talk about. And also, while we're on this subject, I have a clip here from the press conference from a couple days ago where Harry Roseman and Nick Sirianni take turns talking about the question they were asked on how Jalen Hurts fits into their plans for this upcoming season. And here it is.
Yeah, I think that when people start talking about Jalen, the first thing that they go to is his athleticism and his strength as a runner, and I don't know that that's necessarily fair. This is a guy who completed over 70% of his passes at Oklahoma. He's got a feel for the passing game. He's got a plus arm. And I think he's going to continue to get better and better. When you look at those 4 games, I think I watched Coach say this, and I think it was the best way to describe it. He's only got 4 starts, and there's a huge room for him to continue to improve from a player who had 4 starts. So we're excited about the ability that he has and his opportunity to grow and to kind of be with this coaching staff and their ability to get their hands on him and help him become the player that he's got the talent to become.
Yeah, as far as building the system, like when in Indianapolis, we had 3 different starting quarterbacks each year, right? So that those teams had similarities in their offenses, but minor differences just because every quarterback did something a little bit different. That's no different here, right? So we feel like good offensive football is catering to your players, particularly first and foremost your quarterback. So, of course, we're looking at different things that fit our offensive scheme, but then also what our quarterbacks do well. And right now our quarterback on our team, all right, we have 1 quarterback on our team, so we're thinking about Jalen and the things that he does well, what he did well at Alabama, what he did well at Oklahoma, what he did well last year when he was here, and we're thinking about through those things
And there he is. And, I feel a little bit like whenever Sirianni is ready to pop on, I feel like, Chris Burden on Saturday nights, I feel like I just popped a Jack in the Box, and out he comes.
Maybe the whole Flacco thing is, hey, just tell Jalen what you told Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
They're going to tell Flacco to just tell Jalen Hurts what you told Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Which was not much.
I'm not here to mentor you. That's what he told him.
Yeah.
Howie brought up Oklahoma, and it's college, and college stats are nice, but your college stats and the Big 12 has never played defense. So I don't know how much you can put into that. He's completed 70% of his passes per game with the Big 12 for 1 year. So. This is going to be a crapshoot with him. He seems like he's got a ton of talent, but obviously the jury's way still out.
No, 100% on that part of it, and I don't think with Joe Flacco, right? We heard the comments earlier before that apparently Jeffrey Lurie had instructed the team that they don't want quarterback controversy going into this year. Now, I don't know if that said, hey, we know that Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy. Or if they aren't going to make a move to get that quarterback in the draft and then move Jalen Hurts and then kind of avoid quarterback controversy in that way. There hasn't really been solidified evidence to suggest one way or the other. But with Joe Flacco, I mean, he's coming off a year where he went 0-4 in his starts in New York. He completed only 55% of his passes. He went, 1.5 as far as ratio guys touchdown to interceptions with 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And, he was technically, by Pro Football Focus's measure, the second worst graded quarterback of all year last year. So, if Joe Flacco sees the field in any way, shape, or form, it is not going to be a positive. The other part, though, is somebody's got to take training camp throws. Somebody's got to probably be a veteran voice in a locker room and maybe lead a quarterback room in a way that Jalen Hurts coming off of 4 starts, if he's the guy, or if a rookie coming in with 0 starts in the NFL is coming in to be the guy. No, they don't know how, that room is really supposed to operate. Right, like the professionalism of it is kind of inherited from just kind of trying to be that guy, a high character person who we know Jalen Hurts is. But whether it be leading through the reps and the drills or what to do off the field and things like that, I think that's where somebody like Flacco could come in handy. Because last year with Carson Wentz, not to suggest that he was necessarily Brett Favre to Hurts' Aaron Rodgers, but it wasn't seeming like Carson Wentz was obviously thinking he was going to be giving up this quarterback position anytime soon. And so he didn't have somebody really in front of him or behind him that was kind of just being that kind of rah-rah guy, somebody to kind of, coach him through some of the tougher moments of being an NFL quarterback. And at least with Joe Flacco, you have a guy who has been through, some ups and a lot of downs, especially of lately, who can kind of coach him to stay, level-headed when situations don't go their way, which we expect the Eagles season to not be all fun, right? There's going to be peaks and valleys.
Let's look at Los Angeles got Matt Stafford, who came from a team that rarely wins, and they expect him to go to LA and deliver wins because of analytics. I don't care who the quarterback is. If you're going to the Jets and your nickname is same old Jets, because they lose every year. They lose no matter what. And no matter what the situation is, they lose. And look, Joe Flacco earned his stats. He got them. But that's a horrific team. No O-line, no anything. And he had no offensive line to block for him, no running backs, right? And he had nobody to throw to. So, if he comes here, this is not a culture of losing, per se. Last year was probably – the ownership will think was an aberration, was an exception to have a losing record like that. And 9-7 was sucked here. The Jets would be dancing in the streets to be 9-7. The
thing about the quarterback room, but back to Matt's point, I think Carson talked about going into last season about being more of a vocal leader. He's always been a leader by example or whatever, never really a rah-rah guy or whatever. You don't have to be a rah-rah guy. You just have to have a commanding presence. And that wasn't him. And I think if they do draft a quarterback, that's got to be one of the key attributes that guy has, to be a commanding presence in the room. Look at Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, who are the Jets West. That was the day they drafted him, the second they drafted him, that was his team. He took that team. Say what you will about the other guy in Ohio, Mr. Commercial, that's his team. You never got the impression that the Eagles were Carson Wentz's team. So,
you make a great point.
Eagles draft the quarterback, he's got to be day one. I'm talking about a first-round pick. My team, you're on my back. I'm not on your back. Joe Flacco, I don't care if you mentor me or not. I'm in control of this quarterback room. Sit there, shut up, and click your check.
I just talked to Baldy today, Brian Baldinger. Maybe he's listening. And he didn't say not to say this, but the down at his home in Texas, we saw. If you looked at Lane Johnson's social media, he has a video of he built to turn a barn into a big workout center. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's all kinds of weight rooms, and you got this giant mural of all these offensive linemen from the Eagles on the wall. And Matt Pryor and Nate Herbig are on there. So it's like it's big time for them, I guess. But they're all going down there now. All the linemen are down there now, right? And guess who's there this week with all those linemen? Guess who's there? Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
And so smart move on his part.
Yeah.
And
he took them all hunting out in North Dakota. He tried to, but it didn't work. And where's his horses now?
But Lane Johnson, he's the one who called this. He's down there doing his O-line. What's that thing called? Masterminds. Yeah, he's doing an O-line mastermind things, and Jalen Hurts is crashing this party. You know what I mean? Like he wants to be one of the guys. Huh?
The O-line COVID party?
Yeah. They'll bring what's his name down from the Buccaneers to eat the chicken wing contest, But so I think that's a really good move on his part. Go down there and be one of the boys, the big boys, right?
Well, he's got to build rapport with them in a way, the chemistry. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, you need that from a line perspective.
Yeah.
With the line, especially your center and everybody else, they need to know what you want as far as protection-wise goes and what you prefer. I mean, the thing with Carson Wentz that we were kind of living and dying by that Carson Wentz sword was that some of the most spectacular plays he would make were when plays were breaking down and it seemed like all was lost. But then there was also so many of those bad plays because he held onto the ball too long, didn't just take what was in front of him, and didn't kind of, work on that end. It's like if you're a guy, and you're a left tackle and you're thinking, hey, this ball's going to be out in, 2.5 seconds, and all of a sudden it's not, well, that's a big deal. That makes you look bad maybe as a blocker because your quarterback's getting sacked. But everyone else who's watching it at home doesn't understand what the protection was, what the play call was, where the responsibilities were on certain things. And so being able to do that, if you are Jalen Hurts and you're going into this season, obviously hoping that you probably don't get traded, you have a starting quarterback opportunity laid in front of you to be able to take over and build off some momentum now from year one to year two. Part of that is building that rapport. And as much as it is with the receivers and the pass catchers, as non-existent as they really are on this roster right now, you might as well build it with the offensive line that actually is, put together, and we expect to be a plus for this team, at least in 2021. Got to look towards the future with some of these aging guys, but at least in 2021, we expect the Eagles to have one of the better offensive lines if healthy.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. This is Football Stories Facebook Live. We will be back after this message.
Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field, whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS. Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS. Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com. Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All-American Gutter Protection. All-American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutters and gutter protection. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4 in Southampton, PA, 18966. The number for All-American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090.
And welcome back here to Football Stories, the radio show. Live here on Facebook and on YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. We got Rock Hoffman, our college football editor of Football Stories, the magazine, our co-host here at the radio program with us. We got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here at the radio program with us. And we always got Big Al Zafiri producing the show, and he's also doing double duty as a co-host too. Got a great rest of the show for you. Before we get to it, going to toss over to Al.
There you go. Want you to know, acreage for sale. Build your dream home. Incredible opportunities are awaiting you. The old saying, buy land, they are not making any more of it, is true, and here is your chance to own a nice plot of your own, to build a dream home or business for yourself, or to buy as an investment to hold on to for a later date. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group has several land listings available for your consideration in various shapes and sizes in several locations around Gloucester and Salem counties. Check out these land listings offered by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. For the developer, there is a fully approved subdivision in Mullica Hill. This 8-acre parcel has been planned for a subdivision of 12 single-family homes. This land comes with the fully approved design plans for the infrastructure of the major subdivision of 12 homes with public water and public sewer on a cul-de-sac street. Build your dream home in Mullica Hill on one of 4 lots from 2 to 12 acres. All designated for single-family homes. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start your journey to your dream home now. And welcome back. This is Football Stories Facebook Live. My name is Al Thompson. Here with, we got Matt Santoleri, we got Rock Hoffman, we got Al Zafiri with the Burger King thing behind his head that's always kind of unnerving. You know, and
it keeps them coming back for more.
I just think he's going to hand you some burger like out of nowhere, you know, during the show.
We're both hoping for that. Just so I'm pointing that out, we're both hoping for that.
But anyway, so we've been talking about the Eagles, and you know that Jalen Hurts, you know, he's the guy. They're going to have Joe Flacco as the backup quarterback. Remains to be seen what they're going to do for the third quarterback. I think they're going to have a guy they sign like a free agent or something that is going to be on the practice squad, like you were saying, Matt, earlier, that, you know, you need people to do the drills. So I think they need 4 quarterbacks, you know, to just do all the things they want to do during the off season and stuff, you know. So
well, my question is, and I'll kind of go back to what Rock said right before the break, is will the Eagles? One of the problems I agree with him wholeheartedly, and Carson Wentz and anybody. It's just recently, are they going? Because you said Jalen Hurts is the guy, and can you say that with a straight face? Because I know I can't. What makes me feel Jalen Hurts is the guy? And if you go and draft, say, with that number 6 spot, or even the number 2 spot, just like he was, are you once again not saying you're the guy? And are you hurting them? Because sometimes I understand that you can hurt a person by giving them too much at one time. We did that to Carson a little bit. Carson came in. He was supposed to be the savior, the guy to bring us to the promised land. Kind of did halfway or 3/4 of the way, whatever you want to say. But ultimately, they, even though with $100+ million contract, they never were fully committed to him. They always had something in the waiting. If it wasn't Nick Foles, it was Jalen Hurts. So once why I always can say I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to be here. And you go to Cleveland. You did the 2 Ohio quarterbacks right now. Rock pointed out a good point. They guys haven't done anything except they were good in college, but they committed to them. They gave it a chance and they ran with it. The Eagles haven't done that yet. And if we go and get a guy in the first couple of rounds, you're telling me again, you're telegraphing me again, you don't know you're committing to anything. And how do you work like that as a team?
Well, I think that the team has to commit to him. I also think it has to be just the personality of the guy that they draft to be one of those, to be a little bit cocky or whatever, and have some swagger that Carson just didn't have. I mean, it wasn't his personality. It's not a knock against him. It's just that wasn't his personality. I think they need somebody to come in and make them. If they're not committed to him, they need that guy has to come in and make them be committed to him.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you there.
Maybe Jalen Hurts is the guy that's going to make them commit. You don't know.
Well, yeah, Cleveland didn't Cleveland kind of take a jump this year? They did win a playoff game, right? In the first round, they win a playoff game, so he is coming around.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, but even when they were still a bad team, he still commanded that team. I think. Obviously, they gave him those commercials for something. It wasn't because he was winning football games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, the commercial thing kind of comes to a personality thing. That's why Tom Brady didn't have as many commercials as a Peyton Manning, maybe. Yeah.
That's got to be your personality. It's Peyton's personality. Brady, wanted to,
Well, you don't want to take any away from Shaq. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hoard them all away from Shaq. You know what I mean?
Him and Charles Barkley, right? But I mean, that's my thing is like, outside of that part, is it we keep going back and forth, and I don't want to keep dwelling on the Carson Wentz situation, but was that a big problem? Could that have been, because some of this been avoided when we're not having these conversations and we're having better teams, better draft picks, because they're not so, I mean, you become infatuated with a certain, position and you go overboard with it. Have they gone overboard with the quarterback situation? Not that it's not the most important thing to talk about, but have they gone so far to the other side that they've become their own worst enemy?
Well, I think this is the start of them taking that back. They committed to the owner came in and said, we're going to stop the narrative out there. We're going to control the narrative with the media, per se. We're committed to Jalen Hurts. They pick a guy who's obviously not going to challenge for the starting position, Joe Flacco. And it looks like, he is set that he doesn't want to have a quarterback controversy. Now watch. Draft day, they'll trade both of them to somebody, to move up to and grab Fields or somebody, you know what I mean? So, but right now it looks like the owner wants the narrative to be our quarterback situation is what it is. It's set. And let's worry about, making sure we have a, receiving core that somebody can throw to, Because right now, to
your point, I don't think you can say that Jalen Hurts is the man until after the first round of the draft. If they don't draft somebody
right
for the first round, then I think you can fully say that, for now, to that point, Jalen Hurts is the man, and that they seem to be fully committed to him. And maybe that was Lori's point is, maybe we had in the past haven't been fully committed, like what Al was saying, haven't been fully committed to our quarterback, to Carson or whoever it may have been. That's going to stop with this season, and whoever is our number one quarterback, we are fully committed to.
Yeah. The only kind of drawback I see of like the Flacco kind of signing is a little bit of that because it's like if you really want to show that Jalen Hurts is the guy, right, and that like you believe in him to be the starting quarterback, not saying you would just ignore all veteran options on the market, but bringing in literally just re-signing Nate Sudfeld as your backup, that's at least as non-threatening as it possibly could be, for Jalen Hurts. And then if you're saying, hey, Jalen Hurts is the guy for this year, well, the best thing about kind of going into it in that aspect is that going into next year, you're going to have what's hopefully a second first-round draft pick from the Carson Wentz trade, and then wherever you finish. If Jalen Hurts gets hurt, no pun intended, the season kind of goes down the crapshoot, then why wouldn't you not want a guy like Nate Sudfeld taking the snaps to consider that you keep losing games and you bottom out and then you get the best pick you possibly can to then again dress the quarterback position when you really want it. When you're signing Flacco to this deal, it's going to wipe out the comp pick you get from losing Jalen Mills. You're already losing a draft pick. And for a team that needs to rebuild and has holes at all these different places, that might not be the smartest way to go about it, because Flacco is, one, not going to win you more games. So what he does in that locker room is got to be like, you got to sit here and say, I mean, he made $1.5 million last year. He got a $2 million raise after going 0-4 in New York and looking abysmal. Like, there's just some questions about it as desperateness for the Eagles to kind of say, we have somebody that matters at number 2.
I got to pump the brakes on that. If you're telling me that if you have a game where the quarterback goes down, say in the first quarter of game 16, and if you win, you're in. But Jalen Hurts he's hurt, and you have, and this is totally rhetorical, I mean, it's fantasy here, but you have on the sideline a perfectly healthy Joe Flacco or a perfectly healthy Nate Sudfeld, right? That you're going to put in to try to win this game. You're telling me that you're going to put Nate Sudfeld in over Joe Flacco? I'm putting Joe Flacco in 10 out of 10 times.
I guess I just don't see the difference.
He had a chance
that much.
He had a chance on an incredible Super Bowl team to score 1 point against the Dallas Cowboys in the season finale in 2017, and he couldn't score a stinking point. Not one.
No.
They lost 6-0 in that game. The defense did an amazing job. They handed in the game, and he couldn't complete passes enough to even get on one drive to get close enough to kick a field goal. They didn't even attempt a field goal in that game.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, and that scenario that you're saying now, like, okay, you're in game 16, you win one, and you get in. That means Jalen Hurts had a good season, which means, okay, you're probably building around Jalen Hurts for the future. That's a little different. If Jalen Hurts gets hurt game 6, do I really care if 10 games of Joe Flacco or 10 games of Nate Sudfeld? No, I don't. So that's kind of more so where I'm getting at on that aspect, is that 10 games of Joe Flacco, you might win 1 or 2. Okay, that gets you worse off. If you're the Washington football team right now and you had to go out there and pay Ryan Fitzpatrick $10 million to be another bridge gap quarterback, do you not think they would much rather be the Dallas Cowboys at 10 with an opportunity to get a Mac Jones, with an opportunity to get a Trey Lance, to trade up and get somebody? Like, they would trade places with that every day, all day, for that one game that they had that they lost in the playoffs anyway. That doesn't matter. Like, you just, all that's going to do is put you in a spot where, again, you're winning games, despite yourself. The Jets themselves won games despite themselves. They would have much rather have continued to lose football games and have Trevor Lawrence as their quarterback of the future instead of getting left with the next best person. And again, it's all different. You can't always look at it like this, but when you're talking about the quarterback position, it's the one position you have to have nailed down. You have to have your guy. The Eagles are in a kind of opportunity where they don't have to get a guy at 6 because they can say, hey, we got a guy on the roster that's worth at least giving a shot to. Not many teams are really in that position. The Eagles are, especially, like I said, going into next year with not only their own, but hopefully another first rounder, if not another second rounder, that they'll be able to use to trade up to go get a guy. I would just like to see that ammunition be used effectively. Take the guessing game out of Howie Roseman if he's the guy making the choices hands. It's the one positive about being at 6 is that, like, if he doesn't draft a good quality prospect, whether it's a quarterback, on offensive lineman, or a pass catcher, it's like, dude, like, what are you doing really now? Because the guessing game is taken out of his hands. It's just parts like that that I feel like are important for getting the franchise to where it needs to be. $3.5 million doesn't seem like a lot. It's not a lot. It's a backup quarterback salary. But when we know that the cap rolls over from year to year, that's an extra $3.5 that could have been used next year when it actually matters to go out and get free agents and actually spend money. That's not being used because of a signing that really does nothing to move the needle one way or the other. It's just a mass signing. So why lose a pick out of it, lose salary cap space out of it, and then give yourself an opportunity to might even lose draft positioning because of it?
And your hypothetical scenario there, Al, if having somebody come off the bench in game 16 to get them in the playoffs, I mean, are we thinking if they then get in the playoffs that they're going to go on the magical Nick Foles mystery tour and win another Super Bowl?
No.
We think they're going to be, the NFC East is going to be just as bad this coming year as it was this past year, and whoever makes the playoffs out of the NFC East is cannon fodder in the first round. So, all right, it might be nice to make the playoffs, but are you really advancing the cause of the franchise if you make the playoffs this coming year? I say no. So I agree with Matt. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is in that game.
And the other part of it is I don't see Joe Flacco as the not being non-committal to Jalen Hurts. I think Joe Flacco is the best option you can do at being committal because he is not here next year. Yeah. He's not even playing next year. He's one bad hit from not walking. I mean, the guy's had fractured spine surgery. I mean, I've said this before. I think if he's bringing wisdom and helping a young guy mature, fine. $3.5 million, I don't care. The compensation pick was, I think, it's a fifth possible loss of a fifth round compensation pick. That's kind of like when you're in desperate need and you got a lot of gaps to fill. That's a little bit of a loss. But I'm not saying roll with Sudfeld, but I would have liked to see paying a little less and giving up a pick less. That would also be the other thing I'm looking at. But like I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is I still think there's a good chance that they go to a quarterback at 6. I don't want to think that, but nothing makes me feel any other way around.
I mean, I can't see how, and with a team that has valued quarterback more than pretty much any other team as far as like not being shy from doing everything it could do. I mean, they traded so many picks to hop up to number 2 to get Carson Wentz in the first place. They looked at it after paying Carson Wentz over $100 million contract, that it still was worth it to draft another quarterback at 53. Like, if that is your situation and you're saying, I have a guy who we're labeling franchise quarterback, his contract hasn't even kicked in yet, and I'm paying him, and I'm going to then draft with a fringe top 50 pick another quarterback, I can't believe that they would say no at 6 if there is a top tier option sitting there on the board. If you're saying, hey, should they trade up? Then you're talking extra assets for a team that has so many holes and all this other stuff. I can at least say, okay, they'd be willing to roll the dice with Jalen Hurts and then draft a Kyle Pitts, a Jamar Chase, a high-end, playmaker there at 6 if that's what falls in their lap and 4 quarterbacks go before them. But if one of those 4 is right there, it's so tough. It's so tough not to pull that trigger and then kickstart it because, again, all 4 of the quarterbacks that are coming out right now, or at least in my opinion, day one, better quarterback options for the future than Jalen Hurts is. Mac Jones, maybe some question marks because athleticism and things like that aren't necessarily as peaking as the top 4 guys. And then, Alabama just hasn't produced good quarterbacks like that, so there's not a really great track record for it. So I can understand it there. But it's at 6, I mean, you get a quarterback that just falls in your lap. Don't move. Don't do anything. I mean, even with Washington, I mean, they still drafted Dwayne Haskins at 15 because he was just right there on the board. They didn't have to move, then do anything. They got rid of him in a year. Like, it didn't matter to them, really. But it was like, all right, quarterback's right here. We don't have to move. We don't have to give up any extra assets. We'd be dumb not to take a shot. It's kind of the same thing there with the Eagles, even though it's a higher leverage pick and a team that doesn't draft the top 10 very often. You got to put all that together and say, if I don't drop in the top 10 very often, I don't get picks like this, well, I don't get quarterbacks like this that fall into my lap. How do I pass that up?
The only thing there is, if assuming they do their due diligence, and I guess if they're sending, half the coaching staff out to North Dakota, they must be doing their due diligence.
Could you imagine?
Or at least they wanted to give the Empire a story, that hook, line, and sinker. But anyhow, to me, that if one of those 4 guys falls, they really has to be their guy. I just don't think they can take. Well, we weren't expecting him to be here, and now here he is. In that scenario, if they're not completely 100% convinced he's their guy, I think they got to trade down because they're somebody's guy.
What about they think he's the next Russell Wilson? I just want to make sure. You never know. But that's my thing is, I agree with Matt in a sense. I don't think if one of those guys are available, it's going to be really hard for them to pass up. Even maybe if they weren't the number one guy on their board, but if they're their number two guy, it is this Eagles franchise would not shock me in the league. It'd actually be shocking if one of those guys are on the board and they don't take him.
Yeah, I like what Rock said, because the way that I look at this draft for the Eagles, honestly, is at 6, if a quarterback drops to you, you take him. If at 6, you know, you don't really believe in the quarterback, you don't want to do it, but then you got to trade back, because the leverage that you're going to have over one of those teams, even if it's just Carolina moving up 2 spots, you know, from 8 to 6, or Denver moving from 9 to 6, it's too much to pass up. And then at least if you're still there in that fringe top 10, if not top 10, you're still walking away with that other prospect that can't be missed on the offensive line. Could it be Patrick Surtain, the other cornerback they need, or one of the playmakers? Like, that just seems like a better use. It's like you either use this top 10 pick to get your quarterback of the future, or you continue to get more assets so that come next year, if you have to go get the quarterback of the future, you have the ammunition to do so, and you still grabbed yourself a high-quality prospect in the process.
And that being said, I wouldn't trade. It would have to be only falling back, remain in the top 10. You know, maybe back to 8, like you said, but I'm not trading outside the top 10. If it comes to that, I'm taking the quarterback. If nobody, 7, 8, or 9 jumps up, then I'm taking the quarterback. And
there's no way that if there's one of those quarterbacks and they're willing to move back, that somebody in the 8, 9, or 10 spot, I'm trying to remember who's there. There's a couple like Denver. There's a couple other guys that are in there that would bite at any one of those 3 or 4 quarterbacks at the top. If they're available, the ability to trade back and stay in the top 10 is there, and the ability to stay back in the top 10 and get another decent pick is definitely there. They'd be stupid not to.
Well, Kyle Pitts is sitting there at, he's tearing up in his pro days. He's getting these crazy times, wide receiver times, and it'd be awfully tempting if he's not going to go past 6. If the Eagles don't take him, if he's there at 6, I think he's one of the great, best tight ends in the last 25 years in the draft.
Oh, I agree with you. If the situation is Carolina, though, and that's a team that wants to move for a quarterback, well, the Lions just took T.J. Hawkinson in the first round at the 8th pick last year at tight end. They're probably not double dipping in tight ends back-to-back years. So you could be safe saying, okay, Carolina moves up to 6. They get Trey Lance, whoever quarterback is left on the board. 7, they go with the best playmaker at wide receiver, which is where the Lions really need help at. They're probably going to go with Chase or Waddle or Smith, whoever's on the board. And then, bam, at 8, Pitts is right there. So the guy you would have got at 6, it's almost like what the Celtics did to the Sixers with the Markelle Fultz trade. The Celtics were always going to take Jason Tatum at number 1, but they knew that at number 2, Lonzo Ball was going. So we didn't have to worry about Tatum getting drafted by the Lakers at number 2. You got Markelle goes, Bam goes, and then here we go. We're back on the board again. We can take whoever we want. Like, all of that kind of stuff is basically how the Eagles could game plan that out. You don't want to move back to 10, 11, 12. You're not going to get that guy on the board still.
That scenario is, Matt, if somebody jumps up to 7 to take Pitts,
exactly. To hold you hostage, say.
Still at 8, you're still going to get a great guy.
Chase Waddle, the other playmaker you need. So.
And at 8, you could get like a late round second round pick, or a good third or an early third round pick, and still only have to move a spot or 2. So that's amazing. That, to me, that's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like trade value charts, even for Carolina to move it from 8 to 6, it would probably cost them a day 2 pick in this draft and a day 2 pick in next year's draft. So you could be picking up like a 3rd rounder this year and then picking up a 2nd rounder next year for Carolina to move up to just draft the guy they want anyway. But if you're Carolina and you need a quarterback and you need the quarterback of the future, you're willing to give up a couple extra picks, even if it is to move up 1 or 2 spots to solidify that. And so that would be the Eagles, again, just doing the right move in that aspect, again, unless the Eagles are that team. And so that's where it's like the whole non-quarterback controversy stuff could play 2 ways. One, to make teams not want to leap in front of them, but also to allow other teams to know, hey, we're open for business with our pick.
All right, guys, looks like the doc's here. I'm going to bring them in on the screen.
Wow, look at this.
Guys, how we doing?
Hey,
what's up,
how are
Doc?
you? Leave it like that. That looks cool that way. You know.
Yeah, I'm telling
Can you see everything? Can you see everything, Doc?
You sure can,
You
guys.
look like you're ready to strap them on for the Flyers and play goal.
You know what? Just got on operating them in
Oh, you're
the
in
car
your
with me
car.
at home. Yep, I'm not going anywhere though. We're stationary.
It'd be great if you kind of sort of driving down 95 like that, you know, like no, it wouldn't be. But but thanks for coming on. You know, there's spring is sprung, you know, and there's teams starting to train. They're Villanova's playing right now, right? They played last week, Brock?
No, they were off last week, and this week's game's been canceled because New Hampshire's got COVID situations.
Well, there you go. But anyways,
there are the season, and they've been off the last 2 weeks. They don't play again until April 3rd.
Oh well. That ruined my point. Was but no, there's a lot of teams outside now. They're going to be training now that the weather's breaking, and I was reading an article and I thought I'd ask you about it. And I've heard that some coaches prefer and trainers that when you're trying to stay hydrated, that it's better to drink a Gatorade, a drink with additives in it than just plain water. What do you think about that?
So again, everything has to do with moderation, right? So the idea behind the Gatorades and other electrolytes, exactly. You want the electrolytes. Drinking just too much water without replacing the electrolytes can lead to other issues, and in some cases, serious issues if you're doing a lot of intake of regular water without replacing the electrolytes. So again, it's moderation. We have a lot of our kids cut down the Gatorade, so they'll take a regular Gatorade, cut it in half with regular water, so that way they can rehydrate and also get the electrolytes. Lots of ways to do it. I mean, look, plenty of people grew up in a time where there was no Gatorade, and they drank plenty of water and just did whatever they had to do to to stay hydrated. But again, you just want to be smart and not overdo it one way or the other.
What do electrolytes do if you're drinking it from a Gatorade in moderation? How does that help you hydrate? Fill your body with great fluids that help you maintain your performance for that afternoon, even if it's practice.
Yeah, so electrolytes, they're the building blocks of what we're made of, right? So sodium and potassium in particular, they're part of the muscles. They're part of the ability to fire the muscles, keep you from cramping up. And when you sweat out that sodium, that salt. So without replacing that, your muscles can fatigue, your muscles can cramp, not move as fast. So those are all the reasons we try to replenish those electrolytes.
You making any trips to schools now? I know you're doing games, but when it's during the season. But are you going to practices right now? Are you giving any talks to any of these teams about that kind of thing?
Yep, have some talks coming up. Just talking about again, proper preparation really for the seasons. That's what we're going to be focusing on. We have a talk coming up in April, just looking at, again, making sure you're stretching the right way, maintaining the flexibility of the body, and how to recover in between the practices and the games, because there's been such a layoff for some of these kids that they're just not used to getting back out there and recovering the way they should. Game day is different. Everyone's going to be ready on game day, so to speak, but what do you do in the middle to keep yourself ready to be on the field is probably the most important for us right now.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if there was another report I was reading about in California. They're trying to tell high school teams to cut back on playing time as a way to curtail injuries. I mean, there's an analytics to that. The more you play, the more chances you're going to get hurt. But is that a wise move to as a policy to curb injury possibilities?
I think sometimes you can have the pendulum swing too far one way or the other, Al. I think look, for some of these athletes that are coming back that maybe aren't haven't stayed in shape the way they should have over the last 12 months or so. Yeah, there's something to easing them back in and minutes restrictions. But look, some of the reason we see Major League Baseball pitchers break down so much is the way they're coddled. They're used to going 5 innings. They're not used to going 6 or 7, or they're used to throwing 60 pitches. So I think there's a balance that needs to be struck between building up the arm strength for a pitcher, building up the endurance for a football player, but also respecting the fact that you only grow by sort of having that experience that's out there. And you think about minutes limitations in the NBA, it's probably the biggest place we see the minute restriction right now in pro sports. There's something to be said for, Kawhi Leonard, for instance, managing his minutes. But at some point, you have to wonder, is that what's holding him back in the playoffs too? When he's fatiguing and not coming up big. So there's a delicate balance. It's not, all or nothing for everyone. But you need to have that sort of understanding of your individual athletes to make that decision.
Hey, Doc, I mean, you brought up kind of that whole thing about the minute usage and looking at kind of limiting that. The one thing we saw from 2020 last year, a lot of it to do with COVID, was the increase in practice squad for the NFL and kind of having extra players there. What do you think about just expanding the rosters completely to kind of have that same thing happen too? Because, we have so many times where there's players who are getting thrust into positions that they're not used to playing, and then having injuries happen that way, and then just the overall just quality of the game kind of curtailing down because you have players playing out of position. Do you think, it's kind of just a matter of time before things like the roster size for most major sports, including, football, kind of increases to kind of allow for that, usage to kind of go down on these athletes, especially as the games start to maximize adding more games onto the schedule?
From a common sense side, it makes total sense, Matt. I mean, that's something that you would want to have a better product on the field. You want to have better athletes that are conditioned and ready to go just for the next man up. The issue is, the unions and the downstream effect. The more players you have playing, the more money you're paying out, not in here and now, but downstream. They get 3 years in the NFL. They vet to a certain degree. Same thing with service time in the major leagues. So there's all different things that we don't think about it as fans. We just want to see a better product. But I think getting the unions involved and talking about what this means is really where the money and the rubber is going to meet the road on this. I don't think it's anything that you and I would bat an eyelash at if they expanded it from 15 guys to 18 guys for the practice squad. We think it's probably better. But I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes we don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Doctor, I wanted to ask you about Caleb Farley. He's a Virginia Tech cornerback and projected first-round pick. He injured his back in the last couple games of the 2019 season, had surgery, and was a full participant in the fall camp for the 2020 season, but then opted out because of COVID. And now he's going to have to undergo another procedure, a microdiscectomy. Granted, it's the same procedure that Tiger Woods had in December. Talk a little bit about that and how that might affect his draft status. Like I said, he's a projected first rounder.
Yeah, so there's varying degrees of back injuries, right? And we've all heard of sciatica. We've heard of the leg going numb. And when you look at, a microdiscectomy, basically what we're talking about is between the bones, the vertebrae in our back, which are the building blocks, we have this cushion or a disc. And sometimes that disc will, quote-unquote, herniate, meaning it'll sort of slide out of place a little bit, almost like you squeeze a balloon and you see the air sort of pull out to the side. And that can put pressure on the nerves. So what they do with a microdiscectomy is if the nerve is really irritated, they'll actually go in minimally invasive through a couple poke holes no bigger than the size of your fingernail. And what they'll do is they'll actually trim some of that disc out of the way. The problem is in some athletes, this becomes a chronic problem where you're dealing with this over and over again. And after a while, it just like with a meniscus in the knee, if you take too much of that disc or too much of that meniscus, it can lead to problems down the road, such as arthritis, risk of further herniations, and or maybe the need for a fusion down the road where you actually need to put metal to connect the two bones, the vertebrae from top to bottom. So certainly in a contact sport like football, a back injury that requires surgery before you even made the NFL isn't a great option. So I think teams that are looking at this individual are going to be going in eyes wide open, realizing it's going to be tough for him to stay on the field for 16 games to prove it and then prove it repeatedly. So you're going to be paying first round pick sort of money for a guy that maybe he's going to produce at a level below that, and I think it's really going to hurt him. Now, the flip side of that is look at Michael Porter, the player for the Denver Nuggets right now. He had two back injuries, again, a little bit different than what you're talking about here, but nevertheless, there was a lot of issues with him. He was a consensus top 2, top 3 pick when he was at Missouri, and never really got to play because of his back, and slid all the way down to the Nuggets, I think, at 13. And ultimately, it took a little while, it took about 2 years actually to get him up and running, but now he's playing like the guy what the thought he could be. The question is, how long, and that's where the training staff that the individual goes to is important, because you want that training staff to be able to work with that individual athlete and protect them.
Okay. One last question before I let you go, Doc, is, we have 5 of us here on the screen. 2, you and Al, have been fully vaccinated. I have had 1 shot, and I don't believe Matt or Rock have had their first shot yet, or if they, assuming they're going to get one if they do. But why is it important for us to keep wearing masks? If that was, say, a scenario, we're on the same room, why is it important for us to keep wearing masks, even the ones who have been vaccinated?
So this is a great topic, and I've spoken about this with patients a lot, and it's an individual choice, right? If you choose, to take risks, that's on you, but you got to realize it's not a matter of you getting sick. It's a matter of me getting sick, or passing on to my kids who aren't vaccinated, or passing on to my mother, who maybe is ill and frail. So there's a lot of transmission that we don't appreciate. And you think about December, Christmas, all those parties, Christmas parties, and you hear stories of 26 people getting together in a house and 25 of them got COVID, right? It's not so much about you. If it's a personal choice and you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your business. And if you don't want to wear a mask, that's your business. But when you then enter into contact with other individuals, you're now messing with sort of the ecosystem that's there. So again, it's something where even though I'm vaccinated, I still wear a mask at all times. We still double mask in most instances in the operating room. So we're trying to do our part to keep everyone else safe.
All right. Dr. McMillan, thanks for being a guest today. Dr. Sean McMillan is the Chief of Orthopedics and Director of Orthopedic Sports Medicine at Virtua Health Systems in Burlington County and Cherry Hill. Additionally, Doc is an Assistant Professor of Orthopedic Surgery at Rowan University. And Dr. McMillan, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so appreciate that, Al. We're seeing patients both through telehealth as well as in person in our Cherry Hill and our Burlington offices. Best way to reach us would be our main number, which is going to be 856-470-9029.
Doc, it was nice seeing you and hearing from you today. So I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks a lot for being a guest on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Be safe, guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
Doc.
And you switch all these spaces around really well, Al. I think of you that.
I might have done this before.
Yeah. Rodeo.
Done a few things. But no, good stuff there. And I guess it's, I was at I spoke at a little event in Harrisburg, and I was like, only 3 of us, out of 15 people, only 3 of us had masks on. And I said, until I get those shots, I said, I didn't keep this stupid mask on for a year just to throw it away, because I didn't call them all idiots,
You wanted to call them idiots.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And but I said to them, I said, well, I'm not taking this mask off. I thank you for inviting me, but until I get the 2 shots, this mask is staying on.
I think I said this before. It's like, we've all flown and we all see that those guys, those people that have to be. Well, they say wait and stay in your seat with your seatbelt buckled until the plane comes to a complete stop. But how the plane, the last few feet as it's pulling into the jetway, there's always got to be at least that one asshole that gets up and grabs the thing. And how many millions of flights there are every year? There's probably been occasion where 1 or 2 people every year get hurt in that situation. So why would you want to be one of those? Just wait till the plane comes to a full and complete stop.
I just noticed that Rock looked at my box when he said that. He was staring right at my box.
Yeah, but every once in a while the plane jerks on that last 3 feet, and if you're the dope standing up, you're going to go flying into the into the door where the pilots are.
And they'll probably sue for a bunch of money, even though they were told not to do it. It's just how that works too.
But it's the same thing with this. I mean, went through all this, for a year now. It's horrible. And even the people who are mask advocates, nobody wants to be wearing these masks. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait. I have a dryness in my, my esophagus from breathing this thing, because I got to do a job on weekends where it's 10 to 12 hours straight with that thing on, and it sucks, but whatever. But the Sixers, I mean, were you guys impressed last night? Did you see that? I mean, they blew a 24-point first quarter lead, fell behind in the the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then came roaring back to win by 10.
Yeah.
So did that?
I mean,
make you want to get Kyle Lowry more, or are you happy with who they have?
It's the Kyle Lowry conversation is the tough part because it's going to cost you an asset, Danny Green or something. That there is a chemistry right now that has to be taken into consideration. Plus some future, they're going to want some young guys, a Maxey or a Thibault or something that maybe you don't want to give up as well. You need something. I don't know if Kyle Lowry is going to be the thing, but the one thing you can take away from this whole time since the All-Star break is that they've been playing games and winning that even before, not even last year, but the beginning of this season, would have lost. I mean, what was their record without Embiid up until this point?
Right.
They won like one game out of, 5 or 6 or whatever it was?
I think they were like 1-5 or 1-6.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is they're winning games. Now, let's grant it. Some of these teams aren't the greatest teams, or they're missing players that are important. But all teams are missing players that are important. We're missing Embiid. The Lakers, they're going to be missing LeBron and AD. Steph Curry didn't play last night. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good that's coming out of this, because even if this was the scenario in the beginning of the season, the Sixers could have still lost. Even if LeBron, AD, Curry, all these guys aren't playing, they still could have lost. The fact that they're still winning, that the guys are taking things on their back and running it. Tobias Harris, guy I've been very critical of because of his contract, is definitely starting to live up to it. I'm not going to say he's living up to it, but he's starting to live up to it. Ben's doing what Ben does best. Hopefully, when it comes to the playoffs, it doesn't kind of go to the wayside. I'm okay if he doesn't score a point taking a jumper, as long as he gets the points, gets to the line, and takes it that way, however it's done. You have to be very excited about this team right now that they're able to get it, because all you can say after the game's over, what happens if Embiid was in there? Like, you can't not say that to yourself.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, and, I guess you look at it here with the Kyle Lowry trade, it's like, I mean, take Tyrese Maxey, take Matisse Thybulle. Just don't take Tony Bradley, man. I mean, has been awesome. I mean, he was really good at Utah in that kind of developmental center role, and kind of getting some extra shine. With Dwight not maybe playing completely up to snuff, having somebody else be able to come back in there and solidify that center position without Embiid has been a big one for them too. So that's kind of the thing that you were kind of getting at there. It's this attitude and this kind of way of playing basketball where it's like, next man up, right? Like, Embiid's not in here. He's not here to give us that, 30-some points and 12 to 15 rebounds. Somebody's got to make that up. And so every night it seems like it's a little bit somebody different. Like Tobias definitely took over in that Warriors game. Ben will take over for stretches when he needs to. Even getting some really good play out of Shake or out of some of the other secondary guys has been big for them. So, they're able to kind of get it done with this kind of sum of all the parts kind of way. And again, that just kind of leads you to believe, hey, once we get healthy, once we get our guy back with Embiid, we're just going to keep picking up where we left off. It's not a unsustainable way of winning. I will say, though, when it comes to Kyle Lowry, that just gives you a whole extra leg up. And regular season is one thing, right? We've seen that. We've talked about that several times. When it comes to the playoffs, that's when it's really your best superstars versus the other team's best superstars. Maybe adding one extra fringe superstar, at least star player in Kyle Lowry, will be able to tip the scales in the Sixers' way if they have to play in a 7-game series versus Milwaukee or versus the Nets or some of these other teams. That's where it's really going to come down to that being a little bit more important.
Well, how about this line from Tony Bradley last night? He was 8 for 8 from the field. Most of them were garbage to goal baskets, to quote the announcer, right? And the putbacks and stuff. He made both his free throws, and he had 11 rebounds, 4 of them offensive rebounds for putbacks, right? 4 of those baskets, I think, were from those offensive rebounds. He had 2 steals and 2 block shots in 32 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's an all-star line. It really is. And he was incredible last night. And
the key thing about him is let's be honest, kind of like a Korkmaz situation. You're not going to always get this stellar play, but there's time. Korkmaz had some big time, bring games into overtime shots. He's been clutch at points, and that's the other thing. A lot of guys have been clutch, not just one, not just two, but there's guys that like you would never know who put the ball in their hand for when you needed those 2 or 3 points, and you got it. But the thing about Bradley is you're not going to get that every night. But the fact that we know he can do it, and Dwight Howard's another, it's kind of like he's not going to always be putting a ton of points on the board. Maybe he's going to foul out.
Last night.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is the fact that you can have Bradley step up when he needed to, when Howard's game wasn't the greatest, but the game before that, Howard was having a hell of a game. So it makes you, as a Sixers fan and as an analyst, feel a little bit more excited, a little better about this team, especially from a depth point of view, going later into the season and into the playoffs.
Well, he had 13 rebounds last night. Dwight Howard he was throwing up bricks, but he had 13 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds. But I'm sure a lot of them were kickouts. People nailing threes and making baskets. So he contributed mightily last night. He just couldn't. He couldn't throw a brick in the ocean from offensively. He only played 14 minutes and 21 seconds. 13 rebounds.
Yeah, average rebound more than almost a rebound a minute. I mean, that's effective in that role, And again, that's the thing is, it's like we look at this team. We've got Embiid, you've got Simmons, you've got Harris right now. Those are your star players. That's where the offense rolls through. You got Curry and Green and some of these other guys. You're hoping once he comes back and kind of can hit some of these shots for you. But those are your guys. Those are your big three per se. The other guys got to find ways to make impacts. And if that's in the rebounding category and the defensive category, assists, whatever it might be, that's what you're looking for. And so, a guy like Dwight, he knows he isn't the same guy as he was, earlier in his career, and he's bought into playing that role player role. And kind of doing the dirty work and doing some of the things that the team needs him to do. You just need that buy-in from everybody else. And up to this point, seems like the Sixers have gotten it. It's just, again, come playoff time, you got to make sure that that's consistent. And when you strip it down to 7, 8 guys now coming off the bench, you're still getting that full, effort as far as time-wise goes. 48-minute effort from your team, and not just again, the way that it is with the regular season where you can kind of get, 35, 36 really good minutes out of Embiid, and that's going to put the game away. Can Embiid play 42? Can some of these guys put up those 40-minute nights and still consistently get it done? That's going to be something to be seen.
Yeah, and he and Danny Green, as much as I've been ripping him the last couple of games, he has found his legs. A lot of people are saying that the All-Star break really helped him, that he had just nonstop basketball, and he lost his legs in the first half of the season with the Sixers because he played so long last year. And but he has found his legs. Those step back threes he was hitting against the Knicks were, textbook. And
clutch. And they were clutch, and that's the important.
Yeah, and he had 3 threes last night. He didn't do much else, but he was a plus 25. So when he was on the floor, he was doing a lot of positive things. A lot of positive things were happening. So right now, Danny Green is earning his dinner, and
that's why that Kyle Lowry situation and bringing anybody in that realm is going to be difficult because he has to go. You have no choice because of the rule where you have to match salary and all that stuff and making a space on the roster and all that stuff. It's unfortunate. It would have to be him, and in the scenario, he would be the odd man out. Now, the question is this sustainable? Like, is he going to be good for the next couple weeks or leading up to the playoffs, and then things start to trail off?
When the trading deadline passes and he's still on the roster, will he kind of slink back into that, poor play? But he has been playing lights out. I have to admit it. The last week and a half, 2 weeks. So we'll see. Yeah. But anyway, I'm not sure who they play next. They're still on there. They're going to be playing the Lakers team. That's like they're like the Eagles last year. They're finding players on the practice squad to get out, throw there out in the court because LeBron and Anthony Davis are gone. And,
I think LeBron's got a high ankle sprain. I think he's
indefinite. Yeah, he's still indefinite. So, wow, look at the difference in the West. And if the Lakers keep losing, they're probably going to get in the playoffs for sure. But if they're 7th or 8th seed or 6th seed, they're going to have to go through, an extra round at least of a very good team, which could knock them out. But we'll see. And I don't think Utah is the way they're made. I don't like them as a great playoff team. But who knows?
Well, sustainability was always a question on a lot of teams, Sixers included. Like we were just saying, is the older guys like Danny Green, Dwight Howard, are they made for the playoffs because they have the experience, but can they physically handle it? Like that's going to be the big question, and that's what makes sports and sports talk so much fun. Is it's the questions we keep asking, and we won't know until we know.
And just to let you know that Al, we play the Lakers on Thursday night, and then the Clippers on Saturday night.
Right, and none of these teams have been setting the world on fire out there, except Utah has been playing. But the rest of the league out there is, the Sixers have the number 2 going into last night, and I guess after it, they have the number 2 record in the entire NBA. Only Utah's ahead of them now in the entire NBA. So it's like. There's a sentiment out there. Just leave it alone. This lineup. But if Kyle Lowry's sitting there, it's hard not to take him because he could be such a big help.
Like Matt was saying, the guys they brought in, the Howards of the world, they've owned their roles. They've acknowledged their roles, and they're not looking for more. They know it, and so there's always a danger. You bring somebody in, and they're gonna, you give them an inch, and they're gonna want to take a mile. And that kind of screws up the chemistry. So you've got to be bring the right guy if they do bring somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, also you look at the Sixers, like you said, with that record, but Brooklyn is still only 1 game behind them, in the East, and it's kind of held serve on that end too. And so, that inevitable matchup that we've been kind of looking for there with the Brooklyn and 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals, if the standings hold this way, at least that's what I would expect to be the 2 teams that kind of play each other there in the East. Kyle Lowry might be that piece on the chessboard that pushes that series really in the Sixers' favor. Whereas, though, going into it, maybe it's just a 7-game series and the toss-up is that Game 7, and you're hoping, again, the Sixers hold it out and they get that home court advantage. Maybe that's what makes the difference. But instead of kind of leaving it up to more so chance, you're taking that out of the question, and you're knowing you're going into that playoff run with a stacked team and a stacked roster and enough games here between the trade deadline and the end of the season to find out with chemistry wise how Kyle Lowry will be able to fit into this roster and kind of make things work. And his defensive intensity at that position and at his age and everything hasn't really waned. And so at least with a guy like Kyle Lowry, is he going to give you 20 every single night right now? Probably not, but he's going to give you plus minutes on the defensive side guarding guards, and that's something that this team could definitely use when you're matching up against that team. You've got Harden and Kyrie to worry about when it comes to the ball handlers.
Yeah. And, Al, you're our Flyers guy. What's going on with them? They just just a nosedive. I mean, they are horrible. I mean, last night, and you know what? I watched a lot of that game against New Jersey, who is a team with a below 500 record, right? Correct?
Yes.
Going into that game? They're below 500. And all 4 goals that the Flyers gave up, like as bad as Hart's been playing overall, they were wide open. The shooter was wide open. I mean, you gave him dunks.
I think the last few games have proven that it's not all Hart. I think Hart has a little bit of a little malfunction right now. I think his is a sophomore slump, whatever you want to call it. I'm not worried about Carter Hart in any which way, because Brian Elliott struggled mightily in his last game before last night. It's the defense. There is, or the complete
wide open
and utter lack of defense. The turnover in zones, like you said, the wide open shots. Even the best of the best goalies, I don't care who you have in there, unless it's cement and concrete, it's completely covering the net. It's not going to stop everybody, and that's the problem. Our defense is lackluster. The team itself lackluster at best, and it's really hard to watch these Flyers, and that's hard for me to say because I've watched the Flyers through some thick and thin in my lifetime. Unfortunately, in my lifetime, never got to see any Stanley Cups, but I've got to see some close calls.
Close they got turned over in one of the parades.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And I'm a little dot on top of a bus. They took the picture before they flipped it, and thank God I got off the bus. Before these crazy people flipped it over. But that's my Flyers moment.
There you go. But ultimately, this team, this team was known as a gritty, especially last year, gritty, never going to quit when they're down. And even now, I can still say they haven't really looked like there's much quit in them, except for the last few games. Especially last night's game, that or actually not even the game before that, when they had the game and it was only 1 goal, 1-0, all the way up until like the last couple minutes of the game, and it was just flat. And they come out, and there was times when you would think this team, no matter how far behind they were, they could always kind of come back and make it worthwhile. But now it's like the opposite. No matter how many points they score, goals they score, it's just not enough. It's not enough because this defense is falling apart. They're losing to good teams, the teams that are surging, but now they're losing to bad teams. Like the Rangers, not a great team, not a bad team, but not a great team, somewhere middle of the road. But they're losing these games, and they're falling down. And a lot of, at the beginning, people blame COVID. They had a stretch. Remember, they have a handful of games to make up. So they're going through a stretch where they're not really practicing because they're just going game after game after game in between with traveling. But, people are ready to throw AV out the window. They're ready to sell the house on Chuck Fletcher. Every time they struggle, the first thing they... Yeah. Anytime they struggle, the first 2 guys out the door is Claude Giroux. Or if you... I guess after watching all these press conferences, I feel like I've been saying it wrong. It's Cloud. Because the guy who says, all right, you're next to talk to Cloud. And Voracek. I mean, those are the 2.
Maybe he's in one.
Yeah, he's up in the cloud. I mean, listen, I have defended Giroux a lot to people because I think we've talked about it on the show numerous times where people who are fans of the Flyers and the Sixers will give Ben this leeway and give Giroux no leeway and the only real difference from one to the other in my eyes is how long they've been here for. Yeah, and I think that kind of falls into it where people have had like, all right, one's enough. And I kind of get it to a point, but he's not as bad as everybody put him out to be. And he's putting points on the board. He's getting the assists. He's getting goals at times, or he's helping guys get goals that need them. So I'm not selling Giroux just yet, especially because what are you going to get for him?
Yeah. Probably not a whole lot there. But like you said about losing to not good or bad teams, I mean, 9-0. I mean, that's just... that's abysmal. That's
a bad baseball game.
Yeah, exactly. Let alone a hockey score. I mean, it was just one of those kind of games where that wasn't all Carter Hart. Obviously, wasn't all Brian Elliott. Right, the team that played in front of him wasn't really playing with pace or really doing anything that really showed that they cared enough to go out and win that game. And they come back, they bounce back, they win the game afterwards. It looks like okay, maybe they can kind of shake the rust and then can then drop the next 3. And so I see it there too, Al. I see the heads rolling for AV and some of these other guys. Firing the coach right now is not going to get the team where it needs to be. This is one of the better head coaches the team has had in several years. Maybe getting another assistant coach, somebody who can maybe call a better power play, which we've seen kind of be a problem for this team this year compared to last year when they went on that big run. But you can't count it out, right? Like, hockey is that sport where you just got to get hot at the right time. I mean, they ended the year last year on a 19-6-1 record and kind of, stormed, down from the standings all the way up to where they were at. A lot of those same players are here, right? So it's not like they can't do it. Maybe COVID has affected the team in a way. I mean, we've seen it in other sports where players, post-COVID aren't the same guy they were beforehand. Maybe there are some lingering effects that are going on with the team. Because, I mean, look at the way that roster was decimated. It wasn't like it was just 2, 3, 4 guys. It was like the best of the 4 or 5, 6 guys almost on the team had all been put in a COVID protocol. So maybe there are some pieces of it, and maybe it's all just that big, factor of everything you were saying, of having missing games because of COVID. And so now you're not practicing, having to keep playing game after game after game, along with the effects that these players might be going through in a post-COVID symptom kind of thing, and it all just kind of draining on them altogether. There is still time for them to figure it out. They're not dead in the water. We've seen 8 seeds, 7 seeds, 6 seeds go on big runs in hockey. So just because they get into the playoffs however they do, it doesn't have to be a number 1 or a number 2 seed. Doesn't have to be that way for the sport. They just have to figure out a way to get themselves in a position to play for that. And I think they have a roster that can at least surprise some teams and make a run if need be. But yeah, it still shows that there are some work to be done. And with Carter Hart, it's both the sophomore slump that maybe we all wanted to think would never happen because of how good he was last year. But at the same time, that defense that's in front of him also hasn't gotten any better and hasn't made the necessary moves to eliminate some of these shots that he's facing. You can only do so much when guys are right there in your face in prime positions to score. As good of a goalie as you are, these are also world-class goal scorers. They're going to take those opportunities to the bank if your defense allows them to happen.
And
we have to take a break.
Real quickly, I would have hoped that 9-0 would have been rock bottom, and it doesn't seem like it is. So that's a disappointing thing. So
no question about it. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more after this on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Groups, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field, whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS. Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS. Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com. Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All-American Gutter Protection. All-American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutters and gutter protection. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4 in Southampton, PA, 18966. The number for All-American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090.
And welcome back here to Football Stories Radio Show, live on Facebook and on YouTube. Here from the comfort of our homes, I am Matt Santoleri. We got Rock Hoffman, our college football editor of Football Stories, the magazine, co-host of the program. We got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program, and Big Al Zafiri doing that double duty, co-hosting and producing the show as always. Got a little bit more time here at the show before we get to it. Going to toss over to Al for a quick word.
There you go. Work and play from home, surrounded in luxury and privacy in a premier South Jersey luxury home, listed by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. These are dream homes that have it all, designed with luxury and entertaining in mind, and with recreation areas, home offices, and backyard oases with in-ground pools, hot tubs, and more. There's a gorgeous 5,700 square foot Mediterranean villa, which boasts a first floor master bedroom suite, a custom bar, a finished basement, with a theater room, gym, in-ground pool, and spa solar panels, all on 7.88 private acres. I know Matt's going to order one of these right after the show. Another incredible luxury home, boasting 4,958 square feet, with 6 bedrooms, 6 full bathrooms, and a finished walkout basement will make you feel like you're in your very own private castle. That's got Al Zafiri written all over it. There's also a custom-raised ranch home offering 4,000 square foot of luxury with 4 fireplaces on 26 acres and its own putting green. Conveniently located within 30 minutes of Philadelphia and less than 2 hours from downtown Manhattan. For more information, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. The number is 856-478-6562, or go to their website at southjerseyteam.com. And welcome back to...
If we had one of those homes, I'd be doing shows every day from home.
6 bedrooms. You know?
Yeah. 6 acres, actually, back 9.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a studio in one of those bedrooms.
Yeah. So those are gorgeous houses. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And so God bless who can ever get them. That's awesome. But anyway, the J.C. Realmuto earned his new contract, right, yesterday? Didn't he have today? Was that he hit the home run in his first at bat? Right? So we're getting reservations for the World Series, right?
Yeah, right. Get your reservation. Hey, listen, it's spring training baseball, which I love like the next person, but you can take a grain of salt with everything with spring training. But, I mean, I know I've been following it intently, and I am happy to see so far, especially, listen, we couldn't go any worse in our bullpen than we were last year. I mean, you talk about rock bottom. That was rock bottom. I mean, there is probably at least close to a dozen games that we could have had a W with last year if it wasn't for our bullpen. So they brought some guys in who've had prior.
Playoff team. They were definitely a playoff team last year if they had anywhere.
They would have been a playoff team if they won one game in the final weekend, and they couldn't do that.
Yeah, and they blew several games. That bullpen was awful. I mean, it was, I think, the second worst historically of all time, let alone one season.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the upgrade is already there. I mean, the offense has kind of been here for this team. Like I bring up like JT, you just brought him up. Bryce, he's gonna be Bryce. Didi is consistent at best. I mean, there was a lot of bright spots on the offense last year, even though how bad they ended up being in the long run. It was the back end, the bullpen that really put them.
Even the rotation was a better rotation in the National League. The starting rotation, it was all on that bullpen.
And hopefully, this is Zach Eflin's year. That would be a key thing. I mean, right now, your biggest question marks are who's going to be your everyday center fielder.
That's a huge question mark.
And there's some controversy that goes along with that. That some people don't want a certain guy on the team, which I get that a million %, but that's not here nor there. But the point is that's still an open spot. But there's still a lot of guys in here that can come in and play the game. And this rotation, the starting rotation, guys are making the best part about this is Joe Girardi has a lot of hard decisions to make. That's a good thing from a coaching standpoint.
Totally. I don't know, because nobody's really excelled in the center field race, whether it was Odubel, who you vaguely referenced there, or Adam Hazley's been hurt. Odubel got off to a pretty hot start. He's cooled off a little bit. Scott Kingery is in that mix, as is Roman Quinn. And Kingery's a guy that's coming off a bad year last year after suffering with COVID. Roman Quinn is a guy that has all kinds of potential, but never seems like he can stay healthy. So if he can stay healthy for 1 year, I mean, he might be the guy. Who knows?
This is it for me and Roman Quinn. I said this last year. This is it for me and Roman Quinn. But this has to be the pull. If he doesn't either stay healthy or progress,
take a white side of the Phillies.
Yeah, exactly. And, he had, but at least Odubel had like one good. There's like a moment in time where he was good.
Yeah.
JJ's had not had that time at all. I mean, he has one touchdown last year where that was just by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the big question on the offense is where and basically I think the offense is good enough that if they just get a serviceable offensive performance from a center fielder, they'll be fine. They just need somebody to catch the ball. And Roman Quinn was an adventure at times last year. Same for Hazley a little bit when he was in there. Scott Kingery played center field in college, but primarily he's been an infielder as a professional. Although he did, I think at 19 he played there some and was serviceable. So, and then Odubel obviously can get the plays made. It's whether or not they're going to want to deal with all the baggage that bringing Odubel Herrera back.
Well, and that's the key. That's the key thing is how does the team feel having Odubel in there? How the fan base? I mean, and listen, we all know how winning can change things. I always go back to the Michael Vick thing, where when he came to town, everybody was, "I'm not going to the game," protesters. But as he won, that started to die down.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fine. I have no problem if every day he's on the Phillies roster for people out there protesting. Maybe there should be, but and then other people are going to be fine with him on the roster. So, whatever you feel, you feel.
Yeah, and I'll give you my personal opinion. I'm ready to just get rid of him. I mean, the conversation on Odubel is done. He's a knucklehead to me. These little flash in the pan moments we've had in the spring with him, I'm okay. That doesn't mean anything to me. He's a knucklehead. Before all that other really bad stuff happened, he was a knucklehead. He was a liability defensively at times because of knucklehead ideas, kind of like Roman Quinn, but I think in a worse way. His hustle, he's got that swagger like he deserves to be there, but doesn't have to work hard at it. It doesn't have to follow the same rules. And I don't see. I mean, maybe this situation humbled him, and unfortunately, this kind of situation is what you need to be humbled. Is to me. Doesn't show much class, but if it is, whatever. But I'm ready just to move on with them, so the conversation's not even there anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the Phillies should just eat the contract and let him go.
That would be the only way. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him.
No,
I mean that you're just trading for the Phillies' public relations headaches and a $10 million contract, unless you can get the Phillies to pay, $9 million of it.
You're still going to eat 75% of that contract to make it worth.
When Mike Vick came here, he was a quote unquote. He was a superstar. I mean, he had, he was doing highlight reel.
Yeah,
Herrera's not that. He's just a pretty decent player, and he showed flashes at the beginning of the preseason or spring training. But he seems to be tailing off, and if he's tailing off, he's making the decision easy for the Phillies, correct?
Yeah,
absolutely.
The fact that nobody else has stepped up is keeping it out there. I mean, if one of the other guys had stepped up, then you're right. It makes the decision easy. But it's like we've got 4 doors, and which one do we want to pick?
Yeah, it's like if it wasn't the MLB, who's like notorious for just slow rolling young prospects, like this was any of the other 3 leagues, Mickey would probably have the starting center field job from day one, just because you would want to have your first round draft pick and everybody else try to get some reps and kind of do it. But they're more than likely going to slow roll that if that's the case. And even if it is Herrera to begin, I wouldn't completely rule out the fact that Moniak takes over that spot before the end of the season as he gets pulled up and they kind of put some more faith in him. I don't think he's shown enough to say, hey, day one, that he deserves it. Like you said, he hasn't really beat Herrera out for the job necessarily, but I think he's shown at least enough flashes of confidence that he's not going to be a first-round flameout like so many of these Phillies draft picks have been.
Well, I mean, to this point, he has been a first-round flameout, and I mean, one of the reasons Matt Klentak is, the mail delivery guy in the Phillies front office now is because because of Mickey Moniak hasn't really excelled. He's put on some weight. He's bulked up, so maybe that will be the change. I don't think he'll be the opening day guy. Maybe some more minor league seasoning will help him out, and like you could be correct, later this season he could be back. But they basically said that unless he went and flat out won the job and was going to be the everyday center fielder, they didn't want him coming up and sitting on the bench. So I don't think it's going to be Mickey Moniak to start. I agree with you there, but down the road, sooner maybe than later, that is quite a possibility.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I'm sure the league is watching what the Phillies do with this. I think the Phillies wish they were watching another team dealing with this. You know what I mean? Like they're people will make the argument that, well, she's forgiven him. They've lived together for 2 years. He's participating in off-field operations where
and for whatever it's worth. He did admit and apologize for what he did. We've seen recently that, apologies come with, well, I didn't do it, but if I did, I'm sorry. Those kind of apologies, and that was, at the very least, and it's not much, that wasn't his apology. It was a flat out, I did it and I'm sorry. And, if you forgive me, thank you. If you'll never forgive me, I understand.
Well, and they don't have any video of anything, which is on his side. Because Rice, the kid for Baltimore, it was the video, that was it. He had no chance. And the reason why he's hanging around is because there's no video on it, and she's with him. There's nobody, chasing her with a microphone saying, hey, if she was living on her own or back with her mother, there'd be people, asking her questions about it. They're together, and they seem to be pretty happy. So it's a very difficult situation. I get what Al was saying, and what anybody is. You guys are all married. I don't know how, I'm glad I'm not the one making the decision on it, and they owe him a lot of money. And like I said, the rest of the league is watching this, and I'm sure the Phillies wish that they were watching some other team dealing with the same situation. But
listen, and other teams have, for whatever it's escaping my brain.
Personally, domestic violence issues. No,
but I'm saying that recently there was a guy on the Cubs team who the Cubs thought it was a better reason to keep him around to help recoup him and make him a better man and help him with that situation than it would be to just jettison him. Now, he was a much better player, so I'm not trying to be a jerk, but, is somebody asked me when this first came out a while back, if this was Bryce Harper, what would you guys be ready to get rid of him? I said, I can't honestly say, like, well, I'd be like, yeah, get rid of him, but I honestly, in this kind of situation, I can't deal with that with anybody. I mean, I've heard people talk about, like, bringing their kids to the stadium. How do I bring my kids and let them cheer for a guy, cheer for a team who lets somebody out there? But then at the other turn is, a lot of people, when you bring them the Michael Vick situation, is Michael Vick paid his dues. He paid his time. He went to jail. He's donated money to organizations, to the cause that he went against for a while.
The Humane Society, he's been a champion for them. He's and he still does it, and he doesn't bring cameras with him. You know what I mean? He doesn't make a big deal out of it. He just does it.
And now, for what it's worth, I mean, Odubel Herrera was originally criminally charged, and those charges were dropped, but he still was suspended by MLB for the season. So I guess that was his paying back his minutes or whatever.
He's served his time according to Major League Baseball.
Yeah, in that aspect of it, he served his time for whatever penalty he got. And then, like, again, if you don't feel like that's enough, that's your right, and I don't disagree with you.
Now, interesting. I do a lot of live events for that home improvement company, and I met at a lot of the outdoor events. They have rescue operations are there with this, with 40 dogs there, and it's just wild scene, and all these dog lovers are there. And I will intentionally go up and say to the person running it, like the person from the dog shelter or the animal shelter, and I say, have you forgiven Mike Vick? And the just being, straight up, not trying to take a side. And I said, have you forgiven Mike Vick? And it's pretty much down the middle. You'll either get, no, I hope he dies, or, yeah, he paid his dues, and he saved more dogs right now than he ever was involved with getting killed. He saved more dogs. He created the Greyhound rescue. I mean, he didn't mean to, but when they saw when the Greyhound people, and I've gotten this from people involved with the Greyhound rescue, which is relatively new because he kind of started it. They were putting them in mass graves, when they were done racing them.
Yeah, a friend of mine's had Greyhounds for years that he rescued, way before Mike Vick. So,
well, I'm saying it became a thing after when they saw the reaction.
Because of him, a lot more publicity, but
a lot more dogs are. A lot more Greyhounds are being rescued because of what happened to Vic. Not that he did anything, but they just saw the reaction to the public and how he became like the planet's #1 villain. And it definitely, he had a major impact on dog rescues in general. Dog rescues have always been around, of course, but he took it to a different level. Some of it he did himself. Some of it was just the stunning backlash that he endured. And if you ever meet him, he is a great guy to talk to. Doesn't forget what he did, was involved in, but what it's worth. There's people who will never forgive him, and there were people who will never forgive Herrera, no matter what the Phillies do.
I know people who are diehard Eagles fans to this day, and they can't get behind the team, even though Mike Vick has been gone for a while.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So. Totally. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, that's totally understandable.
But you have to wonder, all the years he's got this house in the Atlanta area. Mm-hmm. All this stuff is going on. They got this massive dog graveyard in the back. And did you ever think for a minute, if somebody finds out about this, I just don't get it, And but I don't know. We'll see. But
one of the problems, criminals in general is a lot of them are arrogant. You don't think you're going to get caught, and if you get caught, well, I'm the famous this or that, so they'll let me go.
Yeah.
And he found out the hard way that that's not the case.
No. So to quickly go back to sports before we sign off here, what is your score for the Villanova-Baylor NCAA Sweet 16 game? It's Saturday night at 5:15. Rock, you want to go first?
Okay, I'll say Baylor wins 78-73.
78-73.
I think it's 5-point spread there.
So you're saying Villanova covers?
Well, what was it? It was 4.5, right? Or so? No, it was 6.5.
It was 6.5, I think.
Yeah, 6.5. No, they say Baylor does not cover.
Baylor doesn't cover.
Baylor wins by 5, 78-73.
I will go. I think it's going to be a little even closer than that. Believe it or not, I think it's going to come down to literally the last shot. I think Nova will do enough to keep themselves in it. Baylor does have a decent perimeter defense, and that's kind of where Nova bread and butter right there. But I think it'll come down to it. But I still think Baylor's going to pull this one out. So I'll go. It's going to be a little higher. I'll go like 88, 87 Baylor.
What is it now?
88 to 87 Baylor. One point different. Yeah.
87 Baylor.
I think it's gonna be closer. Probably, like I said, that 2-point game or 2 basket game, kind of like how Vegas is predicting it, and how Rock kind of said. I think 5 points is pretty good, just to be something a little different. I'll say 81 to 75 Baylor. I still think Baylor's a superior team, but I think Villanova does give up enough of a fight to kind of keep it kind of close, and Baylor probably pulls away as it gets closer to junk time, maybe drills a couple of those free throws, and Villanova can't take advantage of their late possessions.
I'll throw some nostalgia here for Rock. I'm going to say that there's going to be an upset, and that Hank Farley comes out of the stands and nails a 3 at the buzzer, and Nova wins 76 to 75. But no, it'll be Arch is going to hit a 3. He'll be in the game because of what he did last game, that he could hit a shot, and he's going to hit a winning. Arch is going to hit a winning shot or give the winning assist on the 3-pointer that wins the game, 76-75. The Wildcats move on to the Elite 8. Yeah, somebody had to take the Cats.
Yeah.
So here we go. All right. Well, if anybody else have anything else that they want to add here?
Nope.
Might as well get going. Thanks for Dr. McMillan for being on the show tonight. Thank Rock Hoffman, Matt Santoleri, Al Safiri for being here. My name is Al Thompson. I won't be here next week, but I'll see you in a couple weeks. And until then, we'll see you.
Take care, guys.